So if you are a manager, right, and you're staring at your screen right now, just completely bewildered as to why your absolute most brilliant data analyst just failed to answer a really basic email.
Or, if you are a neurodivergent professional quietly burning out in a workspace that feels like it was custom designed to break you.
Yes, exactly. Pay attention to this, because the problem isn't the talent. The problem is the interface.
Right. We are talking about the modern high-pressure workplace.
I mean, the trading floors, where a single error is literally measured in six figures.
Oh, totally. Or those project war rooms where 4 different departments demand 4 completely conflicting deliverables by Friday.
Yeah, or those 3M system go-lives, where there is just absolutely zero slack in the system.
Because high-stakes environments, they strip the varnish off everyone. They really don't leave room for friction.
No, they don't.
And they make one reality incredibly obvious very quickly, which is that human brains are simply not interchangeable. You put a team under intense pressure, and you will see some people completely fragment in the noise of a crisis.
While others, they only seem to access their full cognitive capacity when the building is metaphorically on fire.
Exactly.
Which is the entire focus of our deep dive today.
Yeah.
We are exploring this really fascinating new book. It's titled Wired Differently, a field guide to neurodivergence at work.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also looking at the groundbreaking publishing initiative behind it, which is known as the Wired Collection.
Yeah, we have some great material for this.
You do. The sources we're pulling from today include the complete text of Wired Differently, which is published by Rondanini Publishing out of London.
Right.
We've also got its accompanying toolkit and the publisher's internal briefing materials on the accessibility initiative itself.
But before we dig into the actual mechanics of this text, we really need to explicitly establish the boundaries of this conversation.
Yes, very important.
This deep dive is an exploration of workplace systems, management strategies, and professional communication. That's it.
Right. It is not a medical diagnostic tool.
Exactly. We will not be offering medical advice. We're certainly not here to diagnose you or your colleagues.
No, definitely not.
Neurodivergence presents differently in every single individual. So anyone struggling with these issues on a personal level should really speak to a qualified clinical professional.
Yeah. We are looking at this strictly through the lens of organizational dynamics, workflow, and, systemic friction.
Right.
And I just have to say, as someone who consumes a massive amount of business literature, I have to point out how jarringly refreshing the tone of this book is.
Oh, it really is.
It is wry, it is incredibly direct, and it surgically avoids the trap that, almost every other book on this topic falls into.
You mean the cliches?
Yes. There's zero wellness cliches here. There's absolutely no inspiration porn.
Right.
You will not hear the phrase, your neurodivergence is your superpower.
Yeah, the author deliberately rejects that framing completely.
They really do.
And they equally reject that sterile clinical detachment you usually find in psychiatric literature.
Oh, totally. It does not read like a textbook drafted in a laboratory on a quiet Tuesday afternoon.
No, not at all. And that tone makes perfect sense when you look at how the book was actually constructed.
Right, because the author of Wired Differently is completely unnamed.
Exactly. They are writing anonymously on behalf of Rondanini Publishing from the vantage point of decades spent inside the exact high-stakes corporate environments we just described.
It's written from inside the building.
Yeah, and that anonymity serves a very specific function. It establishes immediate, undeniable credibility with a corporate audience.
Right, because they aren't trying to sell you their personal brand.
Exactly. By stripping away an individual author's ego, the text functions almost like a collective voice of experience.
It reads like a survival manual passed from one veteran employee to another.
That's a great way to put it. It signals to the reader that these strategies have survived contact with actual budgets, actual quarterly earnings reports,
and actual hostile stakeholders.
Right, real corporate fire.
So the foundational philosophy here, and this kind of frames everything else we're going to talk about, is the concept of wiring.
Mm-hmm.
The book argues that neurodivergence is simply a variation in human wiring. It is not a defective copy of a standard model.
Right. It is just a different operating system.
Yeah, and that distinction, wiring versus defect, has massive operational consequences for a business.
Huge consequences.
Right. Consider a dyslexic analyst. If management views them as a quote-unquote broken reader, Well, the organization sees a compliance risk.
Yeah, they just see a struggling employee who needs remedial help. Management focuses purely on the deficit.
Exactly. But if you view that same analyst as a differently wired processor, someone who might be, like, slower at decoding a 50-page compliance manual.
But significantly faster at recognizing a hidden geometric anomaly in a massive data set.
Yes. Then the entire management equation flips. You no longer have a broken employee. You have a highly specialized asset.
Because the wiring dictates a specific map of cognitive strengths and corresponding costs.
Right.
The fundamental job of management, therefore, is to architect the workflow so that the strengths do the earning and the costs remain manageable.
You don't try to change the brain.
Exactly. You change the interface.
Man, that is such a powerful shift in perspective. Which brings us to how the book is organized, which is genuinely disruptive.
It really is.
Because standard HR literature approaches this medically. You see chapters titled ADHD, Autism, Dyspraxia.
Right.
But Wired Differently abandons that entirely.
Yeah.
It uses what they call a problem-first structure. The book is organized around 12 specific workplace problems. Things like constant interruptions, running meetings, decoding unwritten social rules, or navigating the sprint and crash cycle.
Yeah, it's a complete departure from the medicalized model of workplace accommodation.
I do want to challenge that structure, though, just for a second.
Go for it.
Because if a manager is trying to accommodate an employee's specific neurotype, why wouldn't they organize their approach by diagnosis?
Yeah.
I mean, that is literally the foundation of how human resources operates, right? An employee gets a clinical diagnosis, they bring the paperwork to HR, and HR consults the manual for that specific label.
Right, that's the traditional workflow.
Yeah, to determine the accommodations. So why abandon a system that is legally and structurally established?
Because the legally established system is terribly inefficient for the actual daily work.
Really? How so?
The problem-first structure recognizes a fundamental reality of the office. A time blindness issue does not care about your specific medical paperwork.
Oh, meaning the label doesn't actually change the friction.
Precisely. Consider sensory overload in an open-plan office. The environmental friction is the cacophony of ringing phones and crosstalk.
Right.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Right. So the solution, perhaps industrial noise-canceling headphones or a quiet desk, is identical whether the employee is autistic, has ADHD, is dealing with a severe migraine, or is recovering from a mild concussion.
Oh, wow. That makes perfect sense. The environment is the friction point, not the clinical label.
Exactly. And waiting for that label is a luxury most high-pressure teams simply don't have.
That's a really good point. Getting a diagnosis can take forever.
The text notes that roughly 15 to 20% of the global population is neurodivergent. So on a project team of 10 people, 1 or 2 members are operating on different wiring.
Right.
And crucially, in a corporate setting, many of those individuals might not even know it themselves.
Right. They might just be struggling without a name for it.
Exactly. They might be spending massive amounts of energy hiding it, or they might be on a multi-year waiting list for a formal adult assessment.
Which is super common right now.
Yes. So if a project manager waits for an official HR diagnosis before fixing a workflow problem, they are choosing to bleed productivity for months, if not years.
Yeah, the book puts it brilliantly. It says, there is no such thing as an average brain under pressure.
I love that line.
Me too. Most management advice fails because it's written for a theoretical average worker who just doesn't exist when the stakes are high.
Right. Telling a struggling employee to just use a planner is advice given by someone who has never watched their own planner dissolve into meaningless visual static by 10 a.m.
Exactly. So the problem-first structure allows the reader to bypass the medical gatekeeping entirely. The instruction is simple. Skip straight to the problem that is currently on fire. If your team is drowning in inefficient communication, go to the chapter on communication. Solve the operational friction first.
Right. It's highly pragmatic.
So we are going to put that structure to the test right now. We aren't going to summarize all 12 problems. You know, this deep dive is a preview of the mechanics, not a replacement for reading the field guide.
Sure.
But we're going to dive deeply into 2 specific problems to see how this methodology actually works in practice.
Sounds.
Let's start with problem number 1, time blindness.
Oh, this is a big one. The text gives this chapter a really striking subtitle. It calls it The Deadline That Isn't Real Until It's Lethal.
Ugh. The way they describe the visceral internal experience of this is incredibly clarifying.
It really is.
Like, imagine an employee is assigned a major report. It's due in 3 weeks.
Okay.
For the first 19 days, that impending deadline generates absolutely zero emotional signal in their nervous system.
Nothing at all.
Right. The concept of 3 weeks from now might as well be 3 decades from now.
It carries no physical weight.
It remains an entirely abstract concept. The brain just fails to pull the future into the present.
And then, at some invisible, highly specific threshold, usually about 36 hours before the deadline, it suddenly becomes the only thing in the universe.
The abstraction shatters.
Totally. The employee goes into a state of sheer panic, executes a 36-hour pure adrenaline sprint, and miraculously produces a genuinely brilliant report. Right, but the physical cost is enormous. They have quietly shaved a piece off their long-term health to pull it off.
Yeah, and the social cost is just as high. Their colleagues observe this cycle and conclude the employee's a lazy procrastinator who doesn't respect other people's time.
And meanwhile, the employee looks at their own exhaustion and concludes they are fundamentally broken.
Right, which is so sad.
Yeah.
Because both of those conclusions are materially false.
Completely false.
It actually reminds me of the mechanics of a video game. If you've ever played a role-playing game, you always know when you're about to face a major boss battle because the boss music starts to fade in.
Right.
It starts quietly, it builds tension, and gives you a clear warning to prepare your resources. But for someone with time blindness, the boss music is completely broken.
Wow, that's a perfect analogy.
There is no build-up.
Yeah.
You're walking through a quiet meadow, and then instantaneously the music blasts at maximum volume the exact second the monster is actively biting your face off.
Yes. And that analogy perfectly tracks with the neurobiology the book references. They cite Dr. Russell Barkley, who is a leading clinical researcher in the field of ADHD.
Right.
Barkley doesn't frame ADHD merely as an inability to focus. He frames it fundamentally as a disorder of temporal processing.
Temporal processing.
Yes. It is an executive function failure regarding time.
Let's pause and clarify that term, actually.
Yeah.
Because executive function gets thrown around a lot in management seminars. What are we actually talking about here?
Think of executive function as the brain's air traffic controller.
Okay.
You have various cognitive planes, circling memory, impulse control, emotional regulation, and time management.
Right.
The air traffic controller's job is to sequence those planes, telling one to land now, telling another to hold in the pattern.
Making sure they don't crash into each other.
Exactly. In a neurodivergent brain, particularly with ADHD, that air traffic controller might be incredibly skilled at managing an immediate crisis, but they have no radar for the planes that are 50 miles out. The future simply does not exist on the radar screen until it is in the airspace.
So when an employee fails to start a 3-week project on day 1, it's not a moral failure. It's not a lack of work ethic.
No, not at all. It is a mechanical limitation of their internal alarm system.
Yeah.
Their ethical framework is fully intact. The brain's regulatory system simply requires a different fuel to engage.
Okay, let's translate that into actual solutions. If you are the professional living with this broken boss music, what does the book suggest you do? Because the standard advice of, just break it into smaller tasks or start earlier clearly is not effective here.
Right. The field guide is highly prescriptive on this. The very first directive is stop trying to feel the deadline.
Stop trying to feel it.
Yes. Your internal software is not designed to feel it, so relying on that sensation will always fail. You must externalize time.
Move it out of the brain and into the physical environment.
Exactly. Time that you merely imagine in your head does not behave. It stretches and compresses unpredictably.
Tell me about it.
Right. But time that you can visually see, however, operates under the laws of physics. The book recommends massive, visible countdowns.
Like what?
Analog clocks placed directly in the peripheral eye line, not digital numbers on a screen. Time-blocking software that physically changes the color of your screen.
So it's literally in your face.
Yes. The deadline has to become a piece of physical architecture in your workspace, not a memory you have to continuously retrieve.
They also introduced a tactic called body doubling to manufacture nearer deadlines, which I thought was a brilliant hack of the social nervous system.
It is a really fascinating workaround. The concept involves booking a very brief review meeting with a colleague to look over a halfway draft of the project, long before the final deadline.
But both the employee and the colleague know this is an artificial deadline, right? They both know the real report isn't due for another 10 days. So why did this trick the brain?
Because a time-blind brain might easily ignore an abstract date circled on a digital calendar, but it is evolutionarily hardwired to respect human witnesses.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. The presence of another human being waiting for you on a video call creates an immediate visceral consequence that the nervous system can process right now. You are essentially borrowing the other person's executive function to jumpstart your own.
Wow. Okay, now let's pivot to the management side.
Sure.
If I'm managing a project war room and I have a brilliant developer who operates on this adrenaline sprint cycle, what is my move? I can't just let them constantly flirt with disaster, but I also don't have time to micromanage their daily schedule.
The management solution is the implementation of interim checkpoints. But, and this is crucial, they must be structural, not punitive.
Right.
The book suggests a 15-minute review at the 1/3 mark and the 2/3 mark of the project timeline.
How does that actually look in a high-stakes environment, say like a trading floor building a new algorithmic model?
In that environment, the manager doesn't ask, how are you feeling about the timeline? That's useless.
Right, because the answer is probably fine right until the end.
Exactly. The manager says, at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, we will spend exactly 15 minutes looking at the raw data ingestion code. Nothing else.
Very specific.
Yes. What that does is convert a sheer, impossible cliff face into a staircase. It manufactures that near-term consequence we just discussed, but it costs the manager almost zero capital or time.
That's brilliant.
Research consistently demonstrates that well-defined, short-horizon duties and frequent low-stakes feedback are the most effective mitigations for executive dysfunction in the workplace.
But the book demands a significant mindset shift from the manager here. It explicitly states, judge the work, not the trajectory.
Yes. And this is where neurotypical managers often struggle.
I bet.
If an employee delivers a flawless algorithm on the deadline, but they clearly wrote 80% of it in a manic sprint during the final 48 hours, what is the manager's reaction?
The instinct is to discipline them.
Yeah.
To tell them they need to spread their work out more evenly.
Exactly. But the field guide argues that is a management failure. If the quality of the output is high and the deadline was met, the system worked.
Even if it looked messy getting there.
Right. The trajectory was ugly to a neurotypical observer, but it was functional. A manager must accept that different engines run on different fuels. Trying to discipline an adrenaline-based worker into becoming a slow and steady worker usually just destroys their productivity entirely.
Yeah, that distinction between the work and the trajectory is so vital. And I think it leads us perfectly away from the mechanical executive function issues of time blindness and into the second problem we're going to examine. This one moves from the mechanics of time to the profound social and energetic tolls of the corporate environment. We are jumping to problem number 7 in the book, masking.
Yes. The author refers to masking as the second full-time job.
The description of what this looks like from the inside is honestly haunting. Masking is described as running a real-time manual translation layer over every single interaction all day long.
It sounds exhausting.
It really does. An employee is sitting in an open-plan office. While they are trying to analyze a spreadsheet, they are simultaneously manually suppressing their body's natural urge to move or fidget.
Right.
They are actively calculating their eye contact, like, have I looked at this person too long? Am I staring? Should I look at my notebook now?
Yeah.
They are mentally rehearsing their sentences before speaking to ensure their tone isn't perceived as too blunt. They are consciously policing their facial expressions to match the expected emotional temperature of the room.
It is a relentless, high-bandwidth performance. The cognitive load required to sustain it is staggering.
And the tragedy of it is the sheer invisibility.
Completely invisible.
The manager looks at this employee and just sees a slightly reserved, perfectly professional team member. They have absolutely no concept of the wage bill being racked up.
And that bill always comes due.
It really does. It gets paid at 6 p.m. It's the employee sitting in their car in the parking lot, unable to turn the key in the ignition, completely nonverbal, with zero energetic resources left for their spouse or their children.
The clinical term for this behavior is camouflaging. It is the conscious or subconscious suppression of natural neurodivergent traits to artificially match neurotypical social expectations.
Right.
The research indicates this is near universal among autistic professionals and highly prevalent across the entire neurodivergent spectrum.
Okay, I need to advocate for the skeptical manager here because I can hear the pushback forming.
Let's hear it.
A neurotypical manager might listen to this and think, welcome to the corporate world. Everyone puts on a mask at work. I have to fake a smile for an angry client. I have to pretend to care about the VP's golf game. I modulate my tone in a pitch meeting. That is a disability. That is just called professional politeness.
Right. They see it as the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Why is this any different?
Yeah.
I need you to really differentiate this, because on the surface, it sounds like the same thing.
That is the most common and, frankly, the most dangerous misunderstanding of masking. Let's break down the difference between professional politeness and neurodivergent masking.
Okay.
When a neurotypical manager fakes a smile for an angry client, they are engaging in emotional regulation. They are choosing to suppress their irritation.
Right.
But their underlying neurological operating system remains intact. They are still intuitively reading the room, naturally processing the sensory input of the environment, and effortlessly maintaining their posture.
So they are acting, but they aren't rewriting their core code.
Exactly. But neurodivergent masking is fundamentally different. It is the suppression of the operating system itself.
Wow.
It is not just hiding an emotion, it is manually overriding how the brain processes reality. When an autistic professional masks, they are diverting the heavy executive function resources, the exact resources they need to do their actual job, and burning them on the manual operation of passing as normal.
So the neurotypical manager is basically just changing their clothes, while the neurodivergent employee is having to manually pump their own heart and inflate their own lungs while trying to give a presentation.
That is a very apt analogy. The stakes of this sustained cognitive drain are incredibly severe. Chronic masking is identified in clinical literature as a primary driver of autistic burnout.
Right.
And we must be clear, autistic burnout is a distinct clinical phenomenon. It is not standard professional exhaustion.
How does the book differentiate it?
Standard burnout means you are tired, cynical, and need a vacation. Autistic burnout involves profound systemic exhaustion, severe sensory intolerance, and catastrophic skill loss.
Skill loss? Wait, meaning you literally forget how to do things?
Yes. The cognitive overload reaches a breaking point, and the brain starts shutting down non-essential functions to survive.
Oh my God.
Skills an employee possessed easily 6 months prior, the ability to organize a complex database, the ability to tolerate the ambient noise of a cafeteria, or even the ability to speak verbally under stress suddenly evaporate.
That is terrifying. And the author is uncompromising on this point. They state very clearly, masking is not a soft topic for the company's wellness newsletter.
No, it's not.
It is a critical workplace safety issue, deeply correlated with severe mental health crises and suicidal ideation.
It is a structural hazard. So how do we dismantle the hazard?
Right.
The book outlines strategies for both sides of the equation. If you are the employee trapped in this cycle, the first step is conducting a personal audit of your mask.
You basically have to map the performance.
You do. You need to categorize your masking behaviors into 2 columns, load-bearing and habit.
Okay, what's the difference?
A load-bearing behavior genuinely protects your employment and your reputation. Modulating a highly blunt tone when delivering criticism to a sensitive client is a load-bearing behavior.
Because if you drop that mask, you lose the account.
Correct. But a massive percentage of the mask is merely habit.
Like what?
Forcing yourself to make continuous eye contact during an internal Zoom call when you process auditory information better by looking away, that is a habit.
Oh, yeah. Forcing small talk in the kitchen when you could just politely nod and make your coffee, that is a habit.
Yeah.
The text suggests that most neurodivergent professionals can retire roughly 30% of their masking performance with absolutely zero negative professional consequences.
Nobody actually cares.
Exactly. Nobody cares.
So you have to claw back that 30% of your cognitive battery. And the book also insists on scheduling unmasked recovery as a hard calendar commitment. It frames recovery not as a reward for finishing your work, but as the mandatory maintenance that allows you to finish your work.
Right.
So taking a solo lunch in your car or finding an empty conference room is not being antisocial. It is system cooling.
System cooling. I like that.
Yeah.
They also highly recommend identifying one safe person in the organization.
A safe person.
Yeah, a colleague with whom the translation layer can be completely switched off, allowing the brain to idle naturally during the workday.
Now let's look at the manager's role in this.
Yeah.
Because the manager controls the environment that demands the mask in the first place, right? Exactly. The manager's objective is to lower the cost of masking by systematically lowering the need for it.
Makes sense.
This requires dismantling the unspoken cultural rules of the office. A manager needs to judge the output of the work, not the normative performance of the worker.
Which means what, practically speaking?
It means making it an explicit policy that cameras can be turned off during large virtual meetings.
Okay.
It means never demanding what the book calls sparkle or performative enthusiasm at a 9 a.m. status update.
Yes, please.
It means not policing a team member's flat tone of voice if the data they are delivering is accurate and helpful.
You decouple professionalism from neurotypicality.
Well said. And critically, managers must be trained to spot the warning signs of burnout because masking makes it invisible.
Right, because they look fine on the outside.
Exactly. If a historically strong performer starts becoming rigid, brittle, excessively cynical, or their emotional effect goes completely flat, those are the alarms.
It's not a slow decline.
No, burnout in highly masked individuals does not look like a slow decline. It looks like a sudden catastrophic failure. The author notes, with a bit of dark humor, that the exit interview is the worst possible place to discover your best analyst was drowning.
Oof. Yeah. Okay, we have dug deeply into the micro-level friction, the mechanical challenges of time blindness, and the severe energetic cost of masking. Now, we have to zoom out to the macro level, because if I am a chief financial officer or a director of HR listening to this, I'm thinking, this all sounds incredibly compassionate. But re-architecting my entire management culture to accommodate a dozen different brain wirings sounds like a logistical nightmare and a massive financial black hole.
Yeah, that reaction is exactly why part 4 of the book exists. This is where the text pivots from empathetic observation to hard, unyielding commercial economics.
Evidence over vibes, as the publisher's briefing notes.
Exactly.
Let's dismantle the cost myth first. The book brings in data from the Job Accommodation Network, commonly known as JN, which operates under the U.S. Department of Labor.
Right, and the JN dataset is arguably the most comprehensive and definitive look at workplace accommodations in existence.
This massive.
They surveyed over 5,400 employer responses across various industries to determine what real-world accommodations actually cost the business.
And the data completely shatters the narrative of the expensive special treatment. 61% of all requested accommodations cost the employer exactly $0. Nothing.
$0. The majority of effective accommodations are simply structural changes to process, communication protocols, or scheduling.
Look what we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Allowing flexible hours, permitting noise-canceling headphones the employee already owns, or moving a desk to a lower traffic area costs nothing.
And of the remaining accommodations that do have a price tag, 33% involve only a one-time capital cost. And the median amount of that one-time cost, $300.
$300. We are talking about purchasing a specific ergonomic chair, upgrading a lighting fixture, or buying a specialized software license like a text-to-speech program.
The book frames this $300 perfectly. It positions it as the ultimate business proposal.
It really is.
A $300 one-time expenditure is the cheapest retention tool available to a corporation. If you deny that accommodation and the employee burns out and quits, you'll spend easily 50 to 100 times that amount just to recruit, interview, hire, and train their replacement.
The ROI on accommodation is astronomical.
It's a no-brainer.
The JN data reinforces that reality. Over 2/3 of the surveyed employers rated the accommodations they provided as very or extremely effective. The documented benefits, which include retaining valued staff, increasing team productivity, and boosting overall morale, consistently dwarfed the initial financial outlay.
There's also this concept introduced called the curb cut effect, which explains why these accommodations actually boost the morale of the entire team, not just the neurodivergent individual. Can you unpack that?
Sure. The curb cut effect originates in urban planning and physical accessibility. When cities began cutting ramps into the concrete at street corners curb cuts, the intention was specifically to accommodate wheelchair users.
Right.
But once installed, those curb cuts universally benefited people pushing baby strollers, delivery workers with hand trucks, travelers with wheeled luggage, and cyclists.
Oh, I see.
The specific accommodation improved the general environment.
And that translates directly into corporate management.
Absolutely. Think about the accommodations we've discussed. If a manager starts writing down highly specific, clear agendas before every meeting,
Which everyone loves.
right, or if they start sending explicit written project briefs instead of vaguely shouting instructions down a hallway, those changes might be implemented to accommodate an employee with ADHD or autism.
But it helps everyone.
Exactly. That new baseline of operational clarity benefits every single person in the department. Ambiguity is the enemy of all productivity. Neurodivergent accommodations are very often just competent management practices made explicit.
That makes perfect sense. Raising the baseline of clarity helps everyone. But if we want to talk about actual performance premiums, we have to look at the corporate case studies the book cites.
Yes, the data.
Because this is the data that forces executives to pay attention. The book examines multinational corporations that are deliberately and strategically staffing for neurodivergent wiring.
And the statistics coming out of these pilot programs are remarkable.
Truly. J.P. Morgan Chase ran an Autism at Work program, and they found that the hires placed into matched technical roles were 90 to 140% more productive than their neurotypical colleagues who had been there for years.
That is massive.
And they were operating with near zero error rates.
Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, running similar specialized programs, reported that their software testing teams experienced roughly a 30% boost in overall productivity.
And perhaps the most fascinating example to me, GCHQ, Britain's intelligence and security agency, recruits dyslexic apprentices at 3 to 4 times the normal rate found in comparable national schemes.
Really? Why dyslexic apprentices specifically?
Because the very wiring that makes reading a linear textbook difficult often enhances spatial reasoning, big picture pattern recognition, and the ability to spot a single anomaly in a massive wall of encrypted data.
Wow.
It is a mission-critical skill set for intelligence analysis.
It provides a structural, strategic advantage. However, we must pause here.
Good.
The text includes a very firm, very honest caveat regarding this data, and it's vital we address it. The author aggressively refuses to use the superpower framing when discussing these statistics.
Right, because it creates a dangerous and false expectation.
Precisely. It is a reductive oversimplification. Those massive productivity premiums at J.P. Morgan and HPE did not manifest because these individuals possess magical cognitive superpowers that generate code out of thin air.
They didn't just walk in and start being geniuses.
Exactly. They manifested because those corporations systematically fixed the interface.
How did they fix it? What did they actually do?
They bypassed traditional socially driven interview processes that weed out neurodivergent talent. They conducted highly specific job matching. They extensively trained the management tier. They offered sensory-friendly environments and asynchronous communication options.
So they completely changed the environment.
Yes. The author proposes a core equation. Wiring plus environment equals output.
The wiring provides the ceiling of what is cognitively possible.
Yes. But the environment entirely dictates how much of that potential capacity the organization can actually access.
So if an employer reads that JP Morgan stat, decides they want a 140% productivity boost, and just hires a neurodivergent analyst, but drops them into a loud, toxic, ambiguous, highly political open plan office without fixing any of the friction,
They're not going to get a genius.
they will get an immediate burnout casualty.
Exactly. They will simply contribute to the grim statistics cited in the book. Roughly 70% of autistic adults in the UK are not in full-time employment at all.
Wow. That juxtaposition is so sobering. A 140% productivity premium when the system works, and a 70% unemployment rate when it doesn't.
It's stark.
It proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the failure is not a talent problem. It is an interface problem. It is a catastrophic failure of workplace design.
Which leads us, quite naturally, to the final section of our analysis.
Yes, and this is where the meta-narrative of this project becomes incredibly cool. We have spent the last hour dissecting how corporate workplaces must accommodate different brain wirings to be functional. But what elevates this entire project is how the publisher itself, Rondanini Publishing, accommodated different brains in the actual creation and distribution of the book.
The medium literally becomes the message.
Exactly. We are looking at the Wired Collection Publishing Initiative.
In standard publishing, accessibility is almost always an afterthought.
Oh, absolutely.
It is a checkbox. It's an export setting. You click on Adobe InDesign right before the file goes to the printer. Or it's a premium secondary product that a disabled reader has to specifically request and pay extra for.
Which is so frustrating.
Right. But for the Wired collection, radical accessibility was the primary design brief from the very first draft of the manuscript.
They have engineered an infrastructure that practices exactly what the book's argument preaches. I kind of think of it like a multi-tool. Usually when you buy a cheap multi-tool, it has one really good main blade and then a bunch of flimsy, useless plastic attachments like the corkscrew or the tiny scissors that break the first time you use them.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
Most accessible book formats feel like those cheap attachments. But this initiative is like a multi-tool where every single attachment has been precisely engineered to the highest possible standard. Every single format is robust, tested, and primary.
Let's break down the mechanics of what that means, because the technical standards they adhere to are rigorous. They offer a reflowable EPB format.
Right, and this isn't just a standard messy EPUB file that breaks when you change the font. This file is validated with ACE by DAISY. For those who don't know, the DAISY Consortium sets the global standards for accessible digital publishing. The ACE tool is their accessibility checker. This EPUB passed with absolutely zero violations, conforming to WCAG 2.1 level AA standards.
To explain that in practical terms, WCAG 2.1 AA means the digital text meets strict web accessibility guidelines regarding color contrast, text resizing, and navigational structure.
What does that look like for the reader?
It means a reader with visual processing issues or dyslexia can change the font to a dyslexic-friendly typeface, increase the size by 200%, alter the line spacing, and change the background color to reduce glare all without the document's formatting breaking or becoming unreadable.
That is so cool. Then there's the screen reader PDF format. This genuinely blew my mind. They tag the PDF to PDF UA standards.
UA meaning universal accessibility.
Right. They built over 2,000 structural tags into the document to ensure a completely logical reading order for screen reading software.
And they check that structure using PAC, the PDF Accessibility Checker. This ensures the document passes machine-testable criteria.
Why is that so important?
Well, for a user relying on a screen reader, a poorly tagged PDF is a nightmare. The software reads headers out of order, misinterprets sidebars, and jumbles the text. By rigorously tagging the structure, a visually impaired reader can navigate the book logically, jumping straight to specific headings or problems seamlessly.
Wow. And for readers who struggle with visual clutter or sensory overload, but who still want a visual reading experience, they engineered a low-stimulation large print edition.
Oh, I really like this one.
Me too. They use a 17.5-point sans serif font. They left-aligned all the text rather than fully justify it, which prevents those weird distracting gaps between words. It is single-column, black text on a white background with incredibly generous line spacing.
It strips away all the visual noise that can exhaust a neurodivergent brain. And crucially, it is the full, unabridged text.
Right, it's not a summary.
Exactly. Too often, accessible versions of business books are aggressively simplified or dumbed down. This format retains the complete intellectual rigor of the original work, merely altering the visual delivery mechanism.
Finally, there is the audio edition, which is narrated by David Axtell. The entire runtime is about 70 minutes, but they made a brilliant structural choice.
They broke it down by problem.
Yes. They broke the audio down into 18 highly distinct chapter tracks, one track per specific problem. So just as the book advises, if meetings is the problem that is currently destroying your week, you don't have to scrub through an hour of audio to find it. You just jump straight to track 4 and listen to the exact solution you need right now.
The technical execution of these formats is impressive, but what is truly revolutionary about the initiative is the pricing and distribution model.
Yes, every single format we just listed ships together in one single purchase at one unified price.
All of them.
All of them. The complete edition, which contains all the written digital formats plus the full audio edition, is priced at just £7.99. A reader is never, ever charged a premium for requiring an alternative format to access the information.
That is a profound ethical stance in the context of modern publishing. They are treating accessibility as a fundamental right of the reader rather than a luxury upgrade.
Exactly.
Furthermore, the publisher commits that if a reader using assistive technology encounters a structural problem or requires a digital format that does not currently exist in the bundle, the publisher will fix the code and reissue the files.
They will actually fix it for you.
Yes. They view accessibility not as a static finished product, but as an ongoing responsive commitment to the end user.
All right, let's pull all of these threads together. We've gone on quite a journey today.
We really have.
We started with a brilliantly wry insider's field guide that completely dismantles the medicalized HR approach to neurodivergence, choosing instead to tackle actual, tangible workplace problems. We explored the deep, mechanical realities of time blindness and the hidden, devastating, energetic cost of masking.
Right.
We looked at the hard economic evidence, the Jan data proving accommodations are cheap, and the corporate data proving that fixing the interface yields massive productivity returns.
And finally, we looked at a publishing initiative that actually models the systemic behavior it is advocating for.
It has been a comprehensive examination of how we architect interfaces, whether that interface is a project war room, a management protocol, or a digital book. to either enable or disable the human beings trying to use them.
Yes.
For those of you listening who want to get your hands on this text, Wired Differently is available in all the formats we just spent time geeking out over.
Yeah.
The design PDF, the reflowable EPP, the screen reader edition, the low stimulation large print, and the audio edition narrated by David Axtell. You can find the complete bundle at rondanini.com/wiredifferently. And you can learn about the broader design philosophy of the initiative at rondanini.com/wired-collection. The book is also available on Amazon and through standard audio retailers, but the Rondanini site is where you access the complete unified bundle.
I would suggest it is required reading for anyone attempting to manage a team in a modern corporate environment.
Before we sign off today, I want to leave you with one final, lingering concept to mull over.
Okay.
For decades, corporate culture has been meticulously, almost obsessively designed for the average brain.
Right.
The standard operating procedures, the open plan offices, the rigid 9-to-5 schedules, the mandated social functions. But if this book powerfully suggests there is literally no such thing as an average brain under pressure,
then perhaps the friction that neurodivergent people experience every single day isn't an anomaly.
Exactly. Perhaps they're simply the canary in the coal mine.
That is a fascinating implication.
Perhaps neurodivergent professionals are just the first ones to feel the acute systemic pain of a rigid, unnatural corporate environment that is actually exhausting and depleting everyone.
Yeah.
And if that is true, then by dismantling the friction, by making the workplace survivable and even optimal for the differently wired watch, we aren't just accommodating a minority. We might actually be redesigning a better, more functional, more human workplace for the entire spectrum of us. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We will see you next time.